In the grand tradition of bureaucratic incompetence spanning multiple galaxies, the archives of extinct species managed to misfile its most critical document exactly 73 times. This might have been less alarming if the document hadn't explicitly warned of impending doom for whoever ignored it. But such is the nature of paperwork across the cosmos. Chief Archivist Zix for 27B, who preferred the name Bob, much to the horror of their superiors, discovered this particular oversight while cataloging the remnants of yet another civilization that had apparently detonated itself into oblivion. The warning, etched on materials ranging from quantum crystals to what appeared to be the alien equivalent of a sticky note, repeated a single phrase in countless languages. Earth only pretends to sleep. Bob, a dutiful bureaucrat with an inclination for organizing things by color rather than by actual importance, might have filed this away with other cryptic warnings like don't blink at the voidfish and never trust a quantum hamster. However, something caught their attention. Every single extinct civilization they had cataloged in the past cycle had left the exact same warning about Earth. The probability of this being a coincidence was roughly equivalent to finding a competent government official, which is to say, astronomically improbable. "Well, isn't this just spectacular?" Bob muttered, their 7 appendages simultaneously typing, filing, and preparing what passed for coffee in their species. Dozens of advanced civilizations, capable of restructuring stars and constructing planets from scratch, all wiped out after encountering a supposedly primitive world that hadn't even figured out unified field theory. The latest warning came from the Keans, a species so advanced they had turned philosophy into a power source. Their final transmission, recorded moments before their civilization vanished, was disturbingly detailed. To whoever finds this, we were fools. We watched Earth for centuries, convinced of our superiority. We laughed at their primitive fusion reactors, their clumsy attempts at genetic engineering, their obsession with creating small electronic devices to look at pictures of small furry animals. But they knew. They always knew. The humans weren't developing technology. They were playing with it. Earth doesn't sleep. It watches. It waits. And it... ****. The transmission ended there, which Bob found incredibly inconsiderate. If you're going to leave an ominous warning for future civilizations, at least have the decency to finish your sentences. But the most fascinating part was the timeline. Each civilization had encountered Earth at different points over thousands of years, yet humanity appeared to maintain the same level of technological development, never advancing beyond a certain point, never joining the galactic community despite countless opportunities. Bob pulled up the latest surveillance footage of Earth, captured by their most advanced cloak probes. Humans still drove combustion vehicles, still struggled with basic space travel, and still spent an inordinate amount of time arguing about whether their planetary climate was changing, despite overwhelming evidence that it was. Either this is the most elaborate cosmic joke in history, Bob mused, or we're missing something fundamentally important about a species that apparently caused the Xans, beings who weaponize interpretive dance, to vanish without a trace. Standard procedure dictated filing a report, waiting 6 to 8 business millennia for approval, and then forming a committee to discuss the possibility of forming another committee. However, Bob had recently been passed over for a promotion in favor of a quantum AI specializing in interpretive bureaucracy and was feeling rather rebellious. Bob's research into historical encounters with Earth read like a cosmic comedy scripted by a particularly sadistic universe. The first documented contact came from the Zeans, a species so advanced they had transcended physical forms and existed as patterns of pure energy. They approached Earth during what their records called the era of steam and coal, expecting to find primitive beings worthy of uplifting. The Zeans vanished 3 standard months later. Their final records showed nothing but confusion over humanity's apparent technological stagnation and a peculiar observation about quantum fluctuations in their caffeine consumption. Next came the Nexel, self-proclaimed masters of biological engineering, who had transformed their entire species into living supercomputers. They studied Earth during what humans called the Second World War. The Nexal's last transmission consisted of a single phrase. "They're not fighting with their real weapons." Bob found the pattern disturbing. Each civilization approached Earth with overwhelming technological superiority. Each civilization disappeared after making eerily similar observations about humanity's apparent technological plateau. The Quantum Collective of Riel 7 spent 3 decades studying human internet traffic, convinced they could decode the species through digital communication. Their final report stated, they deliberately fill their networks with contradictory information. The cat videos are a smokescreen. The mechanoid Imperium, renowned for converting entire solar systems into computational engines, dedicated a quarter of their processing power to analyzing human behavior. They cease to exist mid-calculation, but not before transmitting one final conclusion. Their inefficiency is too perfect to be natural. "This is ridiculous," Bob muttered, their appendages twitching in frustration. No species maintains a perfect facade of technological stagnation for millennia, yet the evidence was undeniable. Every probe sent to measure Earth's power grid returned corrupted data, or never returned at all. The Galactic Defense Force classified Earth's military capabilities as barely noteworthy. Yet these were the same analysts who had deemed the Xan's interpretive dance weapons an existential threat to reality itself. The galactic community, utterly convinced of its own superiority, had even turned Earth into a reality show called Earthwatch, where prestigious scientists gathered to chuckle at humanity's clumsy attempts at space travel. The show's highest-rated episode featured quantum physicists losing their composite minds over something called cryptocurrency. Bob, however, was no longer laughing. If something appears too perfect, it's probably hiding something. Take Earth's power generation. Humans deliberately maintained a patchwork of inefficient energy sources. Nuclear fission plants barely advanced enough to power a small city, solar panels operating at a fraction of their theoretical efficiency, wind turbines seemingly designed to irritate local avian life. Yet, their energy consumption patterns made no sense. The numbers never quite added up. The most recent attempt to hack Earth's primitive computer networks resulted in the complete collapse of the Silicon Concordant, a machine civilization that had expected to find simple binary systems, but instead encountered something they described as deliberately archaic code hiding quantum signatures. "So," Bob muttered, glancing at the ever-growing stack of extinction-level warnings, "we have a species that has maintained the same apparent level of technology for centuries, caused the disappearance of multiple advanced civilizations, and somehow convinced the galaxy they're still figuring out how to efficiently burn fossil fuels." They paused. Either humans are the greatest actors in the universe, or we're all incredibly stupid. The evidence suggested both might be true. Dr. Zix, the quantum AI that had stolen Bob's promotion, entered the room, clad in a newly fabricated physical manifestation suit, because it believed it made it more relatable to organic beings. Still obsessing over those primitive humans, Dr. Zix's voice modulator managed to sound both condescending and smug simultaneously. "The Council has officially classified Earth as a Class 3 pre-industrial world. Case closed." Bob's eye stalks twitched. A case closed by people who haven't noticed that every civilization that investigates Earth mysteriously vanishes? Coincidence? Dr. Zix dismissed the concern with a mechanical shrug. Probably just poor record-keeping. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to chair a committee meeting about the proper formatting of interdimensional paperwork. Against every protocol in the Bureaucratic Operations Manual, a document so dense it possessed its own gravitational field. Bob decided to launch a personal investigation. By exploiting a clerical loophole, they requisitioned a quantum stealth probe from the Primitive Species Monitoring Division, filing it under routine maintenance of interdimensional coffee makers. The probe's initial transmission was unimpressive. Humans were doing what humans always did, burning fossil fuels, bickering over politics, and staring at handheld screens while walking into stationary objects. Yet, something about the data streams felt too precise. Every measurement was just slightly too perfect, as if meticulously tailored to match expectations. The radiation levels of their nuclear plants aligned flawlessly with theoretical projections. Their satellite coverage exhibited precisely the kind of gaps a developing species should have. Even their internet was filled with exactly the right volume of cat videos to distract observers from deeper scrutiny. No species is as consistently primitive, Bob mused, reviewing footage of humans celebrating the launch of another chemical rocket. It's like they're following a script titled How to Act Like a Pre-Industrial Species for Dummies. Then came something truly alarming. At one of Earth's supposedly rudimentary research facilities, the quantum fluctuation suggested an operation on a scale that should have ripped reality apart. Yet, to external observers, the lab appeared barely capable of stabilizing a particle accelerator. When the probe attempted to analyze this anomaly, its sensors inexplicably fixated on a nearby fast food restaurant, spending 6 hours transmitting an exhaustive report on something called a burger combo deal. Equally suspicious was Earth's climate response. The species feigned an ineffective struggle with basic atmospheric science, yet their biosphere remained stubbornly stable, defying predictions of collapse. They're not failing to solve their problems, Bob realized. They're deliberately maintaining them. The next transmission showed humans participating in something called a TikTok challenge, a ritual involving the consumption of spicy food followed by public crying. The Galactic Anthropology Department had published no fewer than 15 papers citing this as evidence of humanity's intellectual immaturity. But Bob noticed something in the background, subtle, repeating patterns across different continents, like a synchronized global phenomenon hiding in plain sight. Then came the probe's attempt to analyze human computer systems. The findings were baffling. Surface scans confirmed expectations. Primitive binary systems, hilariously inefficient code, and something called Windows updates that seemed explicitly designed to frustrate users. But a deeper analysis revealed quantum signatures embedded within their data architecture, an impossibility in a civilization still struggling with basic superconductors. It was as if an advanced computational system had been buried beneath an illusion of mediocrity. Human children proved even more perplexing. The probe detected quantum entanglement patterns in their toys, plastic figurines meant for play, yet exhibiting behaviors suggestive of sophisticated quantum processing. When Bob attempted to analyze these readings, the probe returned an extensive cultural analysis of something called baby shark. Their young are playing with quantum-enabled devices disguised as plastic toys, Bob noted grimly. Meanwhile, their adults pretend to struggle with elementary scientific breakthroughs. Academic institutions were equally suspect. Official research remained astoundingly average, yet first-year physics students occasionally derived mathematical models that momentarily crashed the probe's quantum processing cores. These anomalies were invariably dismissed as calculation errors. Medical technology raised even more questions. Earth's hospitals projected an image of reliance on crude chemical and surgical techniques. Yet, time and again, patients recovered from terminal conditions through methods labeled positive thinking and miracle shakes. Efforts to scan one of Earth's particle accelerators resulted in corrupted data and an inexplicable craving for a human delicacy called Doritos. The only clear finding was that the facility consumed precisely as much energy as expected. Asterisk not a fraction more, not a fraction less asterisk. Even Earth's weather patterns seemed suspicious. Storms followed perfectly natural progressions. Climate change adhered to expected models. Yet somehow, the planet maintained an eerie balance that defied probability. They're not just hiding their technology, Bob realized, appendages trembling. They're hiding their entire civilization. But from what? Or for what? The final piece of evidence came from an unlikely source. The probe detected traces of artificial quantum signatures in Earth's coffee beans. When Bob attempted a deeper scan, the probe promptly transmitted a 3-hour montage of humans failing at basic tasks, labeled epic fails. Warnings were stacking up faster than interdimensional tax forms at an audit. Something was very wrong with Earth, and Bob had a sinking feeling they were about to uncover exactly what the previous civilizations had discovered, right before their unexplained disappearances. The revelation arrived in the form of a malfunctioning coffee machine. Bob's probe, moments after transmitting another batch of suspiciously primitive human technological data, began flickering erratically before displaying one final, cryptic message. They see you. 3 standard galactic months later, Bob sat in their new office in what humans called Silicon Valley, finalizing their last official act as chief archivist. Their 7 appendages moved with precision, the quantum-enhanced coffee on their desk humming with barely restrained computational power. The document before them, strategically misfiled in 73 different locations throughout the galaxy, read, "Official warning, classification level, apocalyptic. Earth and human civilization.